Okay, so again, welcome everybody. Let me start today's session on private sector development with Dr. Marianne Petresky. He is a professor of economics at the University American College in Skopje in Macedonia. He's co-founder of the finance think Economic Research and Policy Institute, a prominent and influential think tank in Macedonia. He holds a PhD from Staffordshire University in the UK. His research lately focuses on issues related to development, labor markets, and evaluation of the effects of economic policies, with a strong focus on transition economies. He published widely in international peer-reviewed journals, with 34 articles in indexed journals, and authored 5 international books and 14 chapters. He is also a research fellow of PEP, the Partnership for Economic Policy, and a career integration fellow at SRGI Prague. And he's a winner of the awards that I was mentioning yesterday, the Outstanding Research for Development Award, the Japanese awards that GDN runs every year. And it's very nice to have you again and to see you. Jaison seems to have dropped off. I hope he will join us back. But for now, the floor is yours. So please take, if you can fit within 12 minutes, that would be great, Marianne, for your presentation.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Ramona, for this nice introduction. First of all, good morning, everybody. I'm always happy to be back at the GDN conference. As Ramona mentioned, she reminded me of my great experience related to the award, which was already in 2013. So quite some time ago, but it is always a pleasure to be present at the GDN conferences in general and to make a presentation as this one. Because we have a very short time slot related to the presentation, I will immediately jump into my presentation. I will put it on a full screen so that you look at it better. I hope it's okay this way. So my topic here, I'm dealing with an impact evaluation of a program whose objective was to incentivize companies to invest and to achieve some measurable results in terms of employment, salaries, investment in innovation, productivity, etc., etc. So it is essentially a quasi-experimental measurement because we are measuring this exposed, as I will mention on the next slides. Of course, the measurement and the discussion in general is very much rooted in the literature. It relates to the so-called incentive effect, which is saying that a state aid may or may not be effective, depending on whether or not the beneficiary changes its behavior after receiving the state aid, or as it's written there, simply takes the money and does what he or she would have done anyway, in which case the society generates a deadweight loss because these money are simply spent for nothing. So from that viewpoint, the incentive effect is the case when the state aid reduces the cost of otherwise undesirable investment project or project for the beneficiary. So the let's say a theoretical or literature framework of this paper hovers around this incentive effect, but my focus here in the presentation is on the evaluation and result itself. So what am I analyzing? Whose impact I'm measuring? It is of the Plan for Economic Growth of North Macedonia, which was created in 2017 and effective 2018, composed of 3 pillars: supporting investment and jobs, new market expansion, and innovation support. So it is essentially granting state aid to companies in these 3 pillars. The first 2 are operationalized through the financial support of investment law, which was, as I said, adopted immediately after adopting of the plan 2018 and amended in 2019. While the 3rd pillar is operationalized through the Fund for Innovation and Technological Development, which was an existing institution in the country, but it was just assigned with a new program. The assessed value was about 100 million euro, which is probably for global frameworks very low, but for a small country as North Macedonia is about 1% of GDP, so not that small. How the two actually operational instruments of the plan for economic growth differ. In the case of the financial support to investment law, the objective was to support investment, exports, and job creation in the private sector. The objective in the case of the Fund for Innovation was similar, but focused on innovation, technological development, and human capital development of medium and small, small and medium-sized enterprises, but still with the same objective, ultimately to increase productivity, jobs, wages, and competitiveness. In the case of the first, it is only the successful companies who are supported, who have already made a productive investment in the year prior to the year of the state aid, whereby in the case of the Fund for Innovation, applicants submit their project, which goes through a two-phase evaluation, and only those who are projects favorably assessed get the grant. So I already implicitly said about the mechanism. In the first case, it is actually a return of funds to an investment already made, and in the second case, it is a fund for funds for realization of a project proposal. So this is very important because in the case of the law of the first instrument, essentially ex ante, we cannot recognize any incentive effect. We are simply granting money to an investment that has been already made. So you cannot essentially incentivize an investment that has been already made, whereby in the second case, the incentive is likely present, because it is unlikely that the applicants will pursue their project if they are not given the state aid. In general, the objective of this paper is to provide quantitative evidence of the effects of these two programs on private enterprises' efficiency and market competition. As I said at the beginning, we apply quasi-experimental design of an impact evaluation, whereby we test a causal hypothesis of whether the state aid allocated through these two programs produces plausible outcomes. It is quasi-experimental because of the absence of full randomization. It is likely that we encounter self-selection or self-assignment to treatment. So that's why, yes?
So sorry to interrupt you, but we seem to be stuck on the title slide. I don't see the slides advancing. Now, yes.
Well, it was on full screen. It was on full screen. Probably it's better if it is not on full screen then.
Okay. Now it seems fine. Maybe it was just stuck for me. I don't know. Now it's fine. Now I'm on the methodology one.
Let me. Did it change now? Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. This is. I'm out of full screen and it works.
Okay.
Okay. Sorry about that, but I mean, essentially, if you followed my exposition, I think that would be sufficient to grasp the main idea. So the causality and counterfactual are presented on this slide. On the left graph, we have a situation whereby the treated and comparison group are identical, which is, of course, not possible, because we cannot observe the same company in a situation when it gets the grant and in a situation when it does not get the grant. That's why our objective here is to identify a comparison group which is as close as possible to the treatment group. So that's shown on the right graph. With the green line, we have the comparison group, whereby our objective is to satisfy the so-called parallelism assumption, whereby we equalize the two groups on observables, so that we could make the comparison between the treated and the counterfactual. So essentially, we draw we draw the comparison groups out of rejected applicants. So these are not drawn from any random company in the country, because it is unlikely that it would satisfy the parallelism assumption. So you see in the case of the FSIL state aid, which is the first instrument, we are talking about rejected applicants who failed on some of the additional criteria, because the main criterion is that the company made an investment. So all of them who applied, of course, satisfied the main criterion, made an investment, but some of them did not satisfy additional criteria. Like, for example, there is a criterion about a maintenance of the number of employees, then the company must not work in the licensed domain, etc., etc. So when a company failed on some of these additional criteria, but satisfied the main criterion, which is has made an investment in the year prior to the state aid granting, then it falls in the comparison group. And for the FIT D state aid, the second instrument, it is easier because we have rejected applicants who scored lower than the evaluation threshold. So we apply a conditional difference in difference method because the comparison groups which I mentioned are still undergoing propensity score matching procedure with the usage of exact and near neighbor matching, so that we still even out of these groups we get rid of companies which are fully incomparable with the treated companies. This matching is done on observables. Let me see. Yeah, it's here. I will come back to the previous slide. Matching is done on observables, sector, class size, location, and age. And these are the outcomes which we measure. So we measure 12 outcomes essentially, which are the objectives of the programs itself. So revenues, investment in fixed assets, in technology, wages, jobs, profits, productivity, working capital, cash ratio, market share, and an index of competition perception. So the estimate we obtain for the impact is, as I said, done by difference in a difference. So we arrive at the average treatment effect of the treated or TT. Very briefly about the data. The FSIL state aid was disbursed at the end of 2018, so we consider 2 years, 2018 and 2019. So in this case, the investment was done in 2017. So we have to take actually these 2 years because we do not want to measure the effect of the investment, but rather the effect of the state aid. In the FIT-D case, the disbursement happened in the second half of 2018. So here, essentially, we cannot use 2018 because of the mixing of the results, but we use 17 and 9. Of course, the data sources are mainly the agencies which are responsible for the execution of the programs. Once we obtained the lists of the companies, we went to the central registry to get the financial data for the companies. And I immediately jump on the results because I'm running out of time. These are the effects of the FSIL state aid. We see that I'm not reading particular results. If you observe the table as a whole, we see that there is a significant effect of the state aid only in the case of one indicator out of 12, which is the employment. So because of the state aid, companies were able to increase the number of jobs only. Any other effect that we observe in reality and which the government actually sticks to is not because of the state aid, but rather or likely is related to the investment which was made a year before. The situation is the opposite in the case of the FIT-D state aid. We observe that we have positive results in 7 out of 12. Because of the state aid, these companies were able to increase revenue, investment in technology, labor productivity, profits, and their cash and their market share. We conclude that FSIL state aid is largely ineffective, and this is a significant concern, a policy concern, which is suggesting that this state aid either needs to be aborted or significantly overhauled to produce results. there is only one counter argument to this. This is the positive effects on the job generation, which is not a bad result by itself, but it is the only one. So because of this, maybe the program should not be dropped, but rather, as I said, reformed. The way of the reform may be looked into the positive effects of the second program, which is actually saying award a state aid before an investment is made. So by evaluation of the project, its feasibility, costs, rate of return, and wider effects. So convert this program from ex post into ex ante to secure that there will be an incentive effect. On the contrary, the other program is generally efficient. It produces results, so we suggest that it should be retained as is. A possible intervention may be to strengthen the rules related to the assessment of the proposed costs, just to avoid artificial inflation of these costs and to avoid over-cashing or the so-called windfall effect. And this recommendation is driven by the fact that we observed also positive effects for the profits and the cash, which were very, very high. So unlikely driven only by the increase in revenues because of the state aid, but potentially also because the grant is very high. And complementary or alternatively, the amount should be altogether revised downwards for the same reason. I hope I was on time. Thank you for your attention, and questions are welcome.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Marianne. This was clear and indeed succinct. I'm going to remind audience members that they can ask questions in the Q&A tab. In the meantime, I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about the decision of the government to have both of these types of state aid programs at the same time, the sort of the ex ante and the ex post. If there's been any discussion in the public domain or in your, I don't know, if you've had consultations around this, why do both? And if you could also talk a little bit more about the windfall effect that you were alluding to at the end.
Okay, thank you, Ramona. Very interesting question. Essentially, we did not discuss in the society, so to say, extensively about the structure of the program. It was decided at the end of 2017 and operationalized at the beginning of 2018, after a new government was appointed in June 2017. So the new government wanted not to lose time and somehow to operationalize some of its political promises during the elections. And they did not leave a lot of time for consultation before, although the process was not that closed. At the time, we were also we were discussing this issue about the potential absence of incentive for the program granting state aid after an investment has been done, but the government was somehow silent on this issue. So now the issue became again important in the public discourse once we published this study. I would say, I mean, we published this as a working paper in before the summer, and there was a discussion. I mean, it was welcome. The discussion was welcome, but unfortunately, there was one amending of the law in some other area, which was happening in July. And we were arguing that this is the time that we open a broader discussion and adjust the law so that it produces effects. But still, the government was not quite willing to do that at that time. They were saying that we need more discussion, etc., etc. So things are moving slowly, but impact evaluations of this kind are very rare in the country. So when they appear, they spark a great interest, at least among experts, among professors, etc., etc. So I believe that there is enabling environment to change things in near future. Sorry, what was the second question about?
Windfall effect.
Yeah, okay. The windfall effect. So when we observe this slide here, we observe actually that profits increased in the recipient companies for 12 times for the gross profit and 16 times for the net profit, more than compared in the non-receiving comparison companies. The same applies for the cash ratio. It increased 7 to 9 times more in the receiving companies than compared in the comparison group. So this requires, of course, further examination, but we thought that it is unlikely that such huge increases are solely driven by increase in revenue, for example. That's why we wanted to suggest that the granting institution, in this case the investment fund, the innovation fund, should be more careful just to prevent that applicants are artificially inflating costs as a vehicle of extracting cash from the government. So while this is not by itself a direct sign of a windfall effect, we have a reason to doubt here that a windfall effect happens, and we are just suggesting that this is examined further, and in the meantime maybe more caution is applied by the innovation fund in the process of evaluating of the applications and their budgets. So that's the whole discussion about the windfall effect stemming directly from the study.
Excellent, thank you. I don't see that the other two panelists have joined, so it does give us a little bit more time to spend on each of the two that we have. So before turning to Jaison, there is one more question in the chat, which I think you partly answered. For you, Marianne, does North Macedonia know if its state aid is ineffective? So you started talking about the debate that the publishing of your study sparked in the summer, but you can take, another couple of minutes to answer this.
A couple of more words for sure. Well, in advance, before we published the study, I'm not sure they knew. Some people in the government may have suspected that it was not effective. But in the public discourse, it goes like, look at this company. We awarded to this company a state aid within this program, and look at how their export is bolstering, they're employing new people. And then the prime minister, together with the economic ministers, go there to visit the company, to take political credit of that. But some of these people implicitly know that they are talking about the effect of the investment which happened before. It is not the effect of the state aid they disbursed. Some of them, I'm sure they don't know. They still believe it is the state aid itself. Now, after the study was published, I told you there was a large forum, and it sparked a wide media attention, of course, because the media always connect the results with the spending of people's money. They are saying this says that we are essentially wasting people's money, which is not far from reality. So the awareness in the society in general, including among the policymakers, increased. And at least we opened a discussion, which was not short-lived. There were some discussions over the summer. As I said, in July, the government proposed some change in the law related to making some criteria for the companies which are already in the program easier because of COVID. So the intention was to provide some flexibility in terms of the effects of COVID for these companies. But as I said, we said, okay, this is time. Probably since you're opening the law, it has to go into the parliament. So it is quite a procedure to see how to overhaul the law so that it produces results. but there was no response on that at that time. Probably they were afraid to rush in that regard. And I believe the solution is actually to take now one more year once the final financial statements for 2020 are available, to make to amend this assessment with another year. Of course, results may be plugged by the effects of the pandemic, but we'll try to find an compelling econometric way to isolate the effect of the pandemic and see whether we confirm the results with 2020 as well. If we have that result, then of course there will be no further space to set aside this issue. I'm talking now from the government perspective, because ultimately we'll have elections in 2 years, so it will be better for the government to do something against the already rolling out argument that they're wasting money on the program.
Yeah, excellent. So very good reminder of the importance of rigorous analysis to be able to identify causal relationships, and the value of a systematic approach with an impact evaluation in this particular case. So you can really have confidence in the evidence that you provide, and which then feeds into public debate. And to repeat the analysis, right? And again, now we have a major external shock with the pandemic, but to repeat the analysis and see what holds, and again, be able to introduce those additional arguments. We had Jaison, and now he seems to be gone again. So I don't know if he's having internet trouble or what is going on, but let's just give him a minute. Hope he can join back. I was just going to turn to him for his presentation now.
Okay, thank you on my side.
Thank you so much, Marianne. Jaison, if you have joined back, you have to click on share audio and video first to come onto the screen. There you are. Excellent. So before we lose you again, let me introduce you, and you have the floor for your presentation. He's typing in the chat. He's having challenges with his internet. Okay, so I will introduce him and hope that he can come back and present. If not, we'll have to figure out what to do. So Jaison is a holder of a PhD in economics from the University of the Western Cape, and where he also got a master's degree in economics. He is a monitoring, evaluation, and research consultant with 13 years of experience in designing and implementing monitoring, evaluation, and learning systems for food security, water and sanitation, and social protection projects in Ghana, Sudan, Zambia, and Zimbabwe. His research interests are in financial development, health outcomes, and climate change, and he has several publications in these areas. He's also a fellow of the recently completed GDN EIB joint program in applied development finance. So, Jaison, you have the floor.
Okay, thank you very much. Unfortunately, I'm having challenges with my internet. So I'll try to share my screen.
Okay, let's see if it works.
Yeah, let's see if it's going to work. Okay, it's not accepting that I need. But anyway,
you click on the screen.
Yeah, it keeps on.
Let me see. You have sent me your slides also, right? Let me see if I can share it.
Yes.
I have it. I'll try and share the screen. Meanwhile, you can start the presentation.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much. So let me just go straight into my presentation. So as Ramona said, this study was commissioned by GDN and the European Investment Bank. So this focused on the impact of digital distribution on small retailers in the Nigerian retail sector. We use the Shoptopup or TradeDepot. So on how this online works is that small scale retailers provide submit for fast consumer moving goods. So placing an order, the distributors that have collected, they validate the order and then deliver to the respective small scale retailer. Nigerian retail sector is dominated by small and informal retailers with about sorry.
Can you see the slides on the screen now?
Okay, I can see them. Thank you.
Excellent. All right.
Okay. So I was talking about the Nigeria retail sector, which is dominated by small scale and informal sector, with of the consumers happening is retail outlets, which are small scale and informal. Also, these small scale retailers are supplied by wholesalers as opposed to by manufacturers or distributors. So the existence of an additional link between manufacturers or distributors and the retail and the small scale retailers has got a negative effect, like in terms of stock out, in terms of profitability, in terms of the prices at which retailers are able to. Can you go then, please? So, briefly, why is it the existence of the seller in the link up prices or his effects? The system Nigeria is not efficient. Besides the existence of a poor road network or poor transport system, the system itself, like the wholesale system itself, is not efficient. So it means there are frequent stock outs with longer duration, and this issue of stock outs is worsened by the fact that small scale retail don't have adequate space for storage. They can only fast moving consumer goods that they can the cost, and also the other issues that I mentioned is because wholesalers are given it is on credit, and securing this kind of cumbersome, it comes at a higher interest rate, which ultimately leads to higher prices and other restrictions. Also, the absence of a direct link between manufacturing and the retailers means there is a delay in terms of in terms of the small scale retailers stocking popular and recent goods. Okay, next slide. Okay, so our study aimed to assess this digital or this online ordering platform on small scale performance. Specifically, looked at the duration of stock outs. It also looked at profit margins, individual profit margins, and it also looked at price level, both the price at which the small scale retailers buying it, price that they are selling. So the understanding that we get is also do get lower price or when there are promotions, but these prices, they don't end up, these low prices end up being passed on consumers, or the additional costs that I have mentioned before, they are at the end of the day going to increase price that are going to be charged to consumers. My hypothesis was like, if the retailers are able to order directly from the manufacturers, we expect a reduction in the stock outs, like the duration of stock outs. We're expecting improvement in the profit margins. We're expecting them to buy at a lower price, and we're expecting them to sell at a lower price on the basis of them acquiring these goods at a lower price. Okay, can you go to the next slide?
Yep.
Okay. In terms of methodology, we used a quasi approach. We had the judgment group, which are the small scale retail. We're currently using this platform, and we had a control group, retailers that had small scale retailers that had used this platform, but they had not started using it. So these are the two groups that we had. We surveyed about 355 users and about 124 users. So in terms of the score matching, so in terms of matching, besides the status of using this online, we also use some covariates to match much better. We honest level of age, the sex of the owner, and also the length of time that this business has been in operation. Yeah. So I will not speak description of these two groups for the of time. Go straight into the results. Looking at the three issues that we had that we were examining, like the stock outs, we found that the usage of this platform reduced stock out for the, and also looking at the selling and the buying prices for selected products. So the results were mixed. For some products, we didn't find any for the purchasing price or the ordering price, they went down as a result of using this platform. So able to pass on the low to the consumers as reflected in the lower selling price. However, we didn't find any significant impact on the profit margin itself. So this is in the findings that we have. So maybe to talk about the specific products, probably it may not add much value, but there are specific products that experience a decline in the price, in the ordering price, and in the sale. So that's of my presentation. Any comments?
All right. Thank you very much, Jaison. I think I need to stop sharing the screen. Very good. So I'm checking if there are any questions in the Q&A tab. Can you tell us a little bit more about the access to data and how you worked with the company itself, and how that process worked?
Okay, so the unfortunate thing was done like just at the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic. So it's to this small scale retailers to be able to authenticate that we obtain.
Mm.
So we have to shift from face to face to interviews. I should also mention that the company has been helpful in terms of providing us the list active use of and those small scale uh, that joined started using the. However, the actual interview itself, like the actual process of collecting data, was kind of, informal business. They were skeptical to what sensitive business information like how the price is changing to about details like if they employed additional people, they become cautious whether it's about the tax or it's about being fined for that reason. So the other thing that we realized is as they've other businesses and jobs are ready to divulge. You see that the non-users what we had planned okay, planning to have an equal number in the treatment and the control group because a much larger the potential users. Over to you.
Say, I just went back to your methodology slide. So you surveyed 355 users and 124 non-users, right?
Yes.
And you mentioned, obviously, because you did the survey by phone, there was a lower response rate, especially for the control group, right? And that's why you had a lower sample size.
Yes, that's why we had a lower sample size.
Is there a plan to expand this research? What are you planning to do? Anything further with it? And did the company itself use the results in any way? Did you share them?
Yeah, we did share them. Process before GDN and EIB accepts the results, the company is supposed to endorse to say these are our comments or we agree with it. So the company didn't have any issues with the findings. So in a way they also agree with the findings because if you look even the literature that I made reference to about costs being driven because of an inefficient system, it's something that resonates with the reason why the TradeDepot founders brought up this thing. Like they identified a gap in the retail system. So the results didn't come as a surprise or as something that contrary to what they already have in mind. So and ENB, IB, so they also didn't have reservations, although there were expectation of it should increase, but we couldn't find some very strong evidence to support that ability for this small scale increase.
Okay, there's a question which I think you've partly answered because I partly asked you as well in the Q&A from Nico Herthforth. Thank you for the nice presentation, Jason. I'd like to know why the control group sample size was much smaller than in the treatment group, and how did that affect your PSM analysis? So
Okay,
yes, I think you mentioned why the sample size was smaller, but please expand on this a little bit.
So the challenge is a way to the interview was like the shift from face to face to, so they have circumstances where the interview is cut like, so already that questionnaire stops to be qualified for purposes of analysis. We have to increase the duration of the period that we had planned to conduct these interviews. Like, we have to increase so that we a reasonable number that can be comparable to the treatment group. And also in terms of matching, it also affected, like, after matching, some retailers or some retailers get discarded. At the end, we were left with even assembled than what I shared there. It's only that offhand I can't remember, like, those that fall into the common support. Like, I can't remember offhand, like, how many made it to the common support. So on.
Did you I don't know, try to offer any incentives for respondents, or nothing like that was possible?
We tried not to offer incentive. Okay, like, we tried not to offer, although those ideas came up, but my thinking was retailers that are already working with TradeDepot, and these also potential retailers, I think their participation should be enough for them to provide information, although it is within their right not to provide, but their willingness should have been, like, signing up for that, for any product that they believe, I felt was an adequate incentive for them to participate in this interview. But
Okay.
it's my bias of working in the development sector.
Do the two of you have any questions for each other, or reactions, reflections on each other's presentation? Of course, they're very different and from different parts of the world. But if you do, please share them or ask questions.
I don't have any question from my part, from my side.
Sorry, Marianne, go ahead.
Yes, I wanted to say essentially the same, that I do not have any particular question. This is a great work, evolving, and I believe with a strong publication potential. So only congratulations on my side.
Great. Okay, so thank you both very much. Do keep us posted of indeed next steps on these studies, and do stay in touch in general with GDN I'd like to keep track of people that have been involved in the network and in our programs in some capacity. Thank you again for joining the conference, for sharing your presentations. You've left us with food for thought, both in terms of methodology, in terms of how we adapt even our research when a pandemic hits, in terms of dealing with other types of all kinds of stakeholders, because while you may be looking at forms, you do have to also interact with the government or with consumers, with intermediaries, with investment funds, with all kinds of bodies. And those conversations are critical, that you have to find the common ground and the common language. And also to give traction at the end to your results and your findings. So thank you both again. A reminder to everybody that there will be a short break now, during which you can visit the expo area, the various booths there, including the poster booth, for example, and the booths with videos and other materials, and to join us later on in the day for the rest of the sessions, including a session on the future of impact evaluations. There is a plenary session later on today. Thank you all very much, and have a great rest of the day. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.